Thank you all for coming here today. The Common Core movement has become one of today's most potent political phenomena. To understand it, though, one has to empathize with the moms who are driving it. The typical mom activist puts her children to bed and then sits down, oftentimes for hours at a time, to study research and correspond with other activists, psychologists, attorneys, and university professors of mathematics and literature. There's a good possibility she has never before stepped into the public square, but she is informed, super savvy, and driven by her love for her children. As was the case for Sarah Wood, who is here today, and from Louisiana, I might add. She started looking into this issue because she noticed the poor academic quality of the materials coming home in her children's backpacks. And what she found appalled her. Just on math, Common Core subjects children to fuzzy math exercises before teaching them the standard way of solving a problem. For example, she learned that third grade math includes new instructional strategies, shown in yellow here, which require her children to solve addition and subtraction problems like this, and this, and this, and this one, and this. Shockingly, the standard algorithm, which is shown here, is not acceptable until the following year in fourth grade, where Common Core firmly places it. In a quest to better understand why these methods were being used, she researched the writings of this country's top standards experts, Dr. Sandra Stotsky, Professor James Milgram, and Zev Warman. The Common Core math approach deprives children of the necessary math practice, and early in their schooling locks them into a slowed down progression that leaves them unable to reach Algebra 1 by 8th grade, and thus 1 to 2 years behind their peers in high-performing countries. Moreover, Common Core prevents a path for a comfortable progression toward being authentically college-ready. And then it gets worse in high school. Common Core throws out traditional axiomatic Euclidean geometry in favor of a system of teaching geometry that has failed everywhere in the world in which it has been implemented, K-12. Most notably at a gifted school in the old Soviet Union that was known for superior achievement in math. Common Core ends with half an Algebra 2 course in 11th grade, depriving children of any reasonable chance of getting to pre-calculus by 12th grade, which is what they should have for admission to a competitive four-year university to study humanities. And what's more, if a child wants to pursue STEM studies, that is, studies in science, technology, engineering, and math, she needs to have completed calculus by 12th grade. This is not a matter of debate. Jason Zimba, the chief architect of Common Core math standards, admitted in testimony that Common Core is, and I quote, not only not for STEM, it's also not for selective colleges. For example, for UC Berkeley, whether you are going to be an engineer or not, you'd better have pre-calculus to get into UC Berkeley. Speaking of UC Berkeley, Marina Bratner, Professor Emerita of Mathematics there, she's also, I might add, one of the very top mathematicians in the world. She started looking into Common Core because of the changes in her grandson's 6th grade math. Last summer, she wrote in the Wall Street Journal that students taught in the way that these standards require would have little chance of being admitted to even an average college. and would certainly struggle if they could get in. Bud Peterson, president of Georgia Tech, said, "You can't go to Georgia Tech if you don't take Algebra 1 by 8th grade and calculus as a senior." This tracks a major finding of the National Mathematics Advisory Panel that recommends Algebra 1 in the 8th grade. Because Common Core puts Algebra 1 firmly in 9th grade, many children will be too far behind by the time they even get to high school. As the mom well knows, the problem is that Common Core fails on these counts. And the English standards, I might add, are even worse. For example, they dictate a severe reduction, and this is contrary to the great weight of evidence and centuries of practice, a severe reduction in the study of classic narrative literature in favor of simpler informational texts. This is a national train wreck. Millions of children are stuck in this dumbed-down content and slowed progression. But the children of the well-to-do parents have access to elite private schools, summer schools, and tutors to work around Common Core. The economically disadvantaged children will be left behind, stuck in Common Core's rut, and the achievement gaps will grow. The Common Core mom has gone to battle in defense of her child, but the dysfunction that she has encountered in government is even more appalling than Common Core. She sees huge private interests that prevail on the federal government to favor them. And she sees her State Board of Education reduced to being mere supplicants of the federal government. It is far more responsive to conditional federal dollars than to the state's citizens and legislators. It takes that dollar often without even giving true notice to the legislature, and at other times expressly advocating for the policy causes of the federal government. This leaves the citizen and legislator uninformed or at best confused as to what is happening. And Congress is ill-suited to provide any check or balance. Its efforts to do so are random, intermittent, and ineffective. As the mom knows, this dysfunction enabled Common Core to be pushed into the classrooms across the country. Common Core is owned and funded by private entities. It was developed behind closed doors in Washington, D.C. by private associations not subject to Freedom of Information Acts, open meeting laws, or any other indicia of government action. And they, in fact, had no grant of authority from any state. As the mom found out, the Common Core owners convinced the Federal Department of Education to spend stimulus dollars on a grant program that awarded states points in a grant competition on the strength of their commitments to Common Core and the aligned tests. But as ever more moms realize what happened, their political power grows. It grows as moms, liberal, conservative, and indifferent, join the ranks of the fight for their children. A 2014 Gallup poll reported that the growing opposition to the Common Core includes Republicans who oppose it by 76%, 60% of independents, and 38% of Democrats. This past month, the Democratic Party of Washington State passed a resolution condemning the Common Core. And there is growing opposition from teachers. A survey conducted by Education Next found teacher support for the standards declined 30% just this past year. Those numbers will continue to increase as more moms and teachers realize Common Core's bad effects. Moreover, as the mom knows, Common Core is a cornerstone for a larger effort to centralize assessments, teacher evaluations, and school accountability, the effects of which have not yet hit. Unfortunately, the congressional leadership appears to be rushing through a No Child Left Behind reauthorization bill that fails to fix this dysfunction. If they do that, they will have ruined their legacies and have profoundly and perhaps permanently alienated the mom trying to guard her child's interests. And in the upcoming Republican presidential contest, if the anti-Common Core vote fractures so that a pro-Common Core candidate wins the nomination, then he will likely face former Secretary of State Clinton, who has no Common Core baggage. By then, the movement will have grown so much that he will be unelectable. Thank you.